Imagine living alone and filled with sorrow after your wife's death, all while a zombie outbreak spreads across the world. You find yourself trapped in your own home, unable to leave. Then, after facing countless hardships, the moment you finally decide to escape both your house and the zombies, you end up kidnapped by a criminal gang who enslaves other survivors. The film starts, or well, hold on a second before we begin. Look, you don't have to like this video, though it would be really great if you did. And you don't have to subscribe either, even though that would also be nice. What truly matters is that you drop a comment with a red heart emoji. That's all I'm asking for. Now, let's begin. The movie opens with a man named Manil. Right now, Manil and his wife Julia are visiting Manil's sister Belin. Manil spends time playing with Belin's young son, who he clearly adores. The boy asks Manil to show him his cat, so Manil pulls up a live feed from his own home to show the cat wandering around. After a while, Manil and Julia say their goodbyes to Belin, who apologizes that her husband, Mario, isn't around because he's currently away at the military base where he works. With that, Manil and Julia leave. On their way home, Julia tells Manil she's upset that he doesn't want children, despite clearly loving kids, evidenced by how much he dotes on his nephew. Manil tries to reason with her and calm her down, but he's distracted. Out of nowhere, a large truck slams into their car. A year passes after the accident. We find Manil living alone in the same house, still grieving Julia's death. He looks utterly heartbroken and hasn't moved on at all. While Manil watches the news, he hears about a dangerous virus named TSG. Apparently, it's spread through Europe and might soon reach Spain. Manil lives in Spain, but he doesn't pay much attention to the warning. Instead, he heads down to the marina, where he meets two women who came to check out his boat to potentially buy it. As Manil boards the boat, he can't help but remember Julia and a day when he wore a diving suit she had gifted him. Snapping out of his memories, he goes back home. Once there, he gets a video call from his sister Belin. She asks if he sold the boat, and he tells her no. She tries to comfort him, then shares some worrying news. The TSG virus has mutated into a more dangerous strain. The military base where Mario works has ordered them to move to a safe zone. Belin wants Manil to come to their city tomorrow so he can join them in relocating. Manil agrees, though he doesn't really understand what's happening. The next morning, Manil wakes up and notices his neighbors frantically fleeing. Something definitely isn't right. Later, Manil heads to the airport to catch a flight to his sister's place. At the airport, everyone learns that all flights have been cancelled. People suspect the army is effectively sealing them inside the city. One man loses it, attacks the security officers, grabs a weapon, and starts threatening everyone. Amid the chaos, Belin calls Manil. She urges him to go back home and barricade himself inside because the virus has now spread throughout the country. That's why flights are grounded. Belin promises that as soon as they can, she and Mario will come and get him. Although worried, Manil agrees. Meanwhile, at the airport, people panic and start running away because the deranged man with the gun is firing shots. Manil leaves the airport and tries to drive home, but every route is blocked. An elderly couple in a car beside him asks what's going on. Manil tells them the situation is bad and suggests they return to their own home and hide there. Traffic isn't moving at all, so Manil leaves his car and continues on foot. On his way home, he passes a makeshift quarantine area. Soldiers are struggling to contain a clearly infected individual who acts just like a rabid zombie trying to bite them. Horrified, Manil runs off as fast as he can. The next day, Belin calls Manil again, trying to reassure him that things will improve and that she and Mario will come for him eventually. Suddenly, a state of emergency is declared on the news. Manil begins watching videos on his phone posted by other people, showing the infected acting exactly like zombies. Terror sets in, and he realizes he might be stuck at home for a long time. Immediately, Manil decides he needs supplies. He heads to the local market and finds total chaos. People fighting and even killing each other for food. All he manages to get is some cat food and a small bit of food for himself. But then that same elderly man from the traffic jam steals his food and runs off. Annoyed, Manil leaves the market. He goes to a gas station and breaks into the mini-mart there to gather supplies. When he comes back out, he spots a wounded police officer who locks himself inside. Another officer nearby has turned into a zombie and attacks his colleague, biting him. Afterward, the infected officer lunges at Manil, but the newly bitten officer manages to shoot the zombie, saving Manil before taking his own life to avoid turning infected. Unfortunately, the officer locked in the mini-mart also turns into a zombie. Manil flees the scene and returns home, sealing it tightly to keep the undead out. Manil then receives a message warning him not to trust the army if they come to evacuate civilians because the so-called safe zones aren't actually safe. Almost immediately, the army does arrive to evacuate people from the city, but Manil hides and refuses to go with them. 2 weeks pass. Communication is completely cut off. Manil records a video message for Belen, hoping that someday the connection will be restored and he can send it to her. He suits up in his diving gear, the same suit Julia gave him, hoping it will offer some protection against any bites. Then he steps outside for the first time to look for food and supplies because his stock at home is nearly gone. The city is eerily empty, as though no one but Manil remains. He goes from house to house looking for food, but comes up empty-handed. Eventually, he enters one home and finds an elderly, paralyzed woman named Gabriella. She tells him she has no food. Manal asks why she's alone, and Gabriella explains that her son and his wife left the city with the army, leaving her behind. Touched by her plight, Manel promises Gabriella he'll find some food for her. Gabriella, in turn, suggests certain homes to check. She knows their owners and believes they may have left provisions behind. Manil follows her suggestions, but finds nothing in those houses. He returns to Gabriella to let her know he's having no luck, but he gives her a walkie-talkie he found so they can stay in touch. Then he sets out again to search more houses. In one of the houses, Manil hears someone entering. Afraid it's a zombie, he fires his hunting rifle. The shot misses and the intruder, a man, runs off, terrified. Manil continues his search and finally finds a home packed with supplies. He's overjoyed, loads up on food, and rushes back to Gabriella. Together, they eat, drink, and chat happily, savoring a rare moment of peace. A few days later, Gabriella contacts Manil over the walkie-talkie, telling him to tune his radio to a certain frequency. He does, and hears a broadcast urging survivors to head to a certain town that's supposedly safe. Manil is thrilled and decides to go there. Gabriella, however, says she won't join him, as she's paralyzed and feels she'd slow him down. Manil insists that tomorrow he'll come back for her, and they'll leave together. The next day, Manil gears up and tries to contact Gabriella, but she doesn't answer. Worried, he goes into her home and finds a note she left behind. She thanks him for everything he did and how he stood by her, but when he checks her room, he finds she has taken her own life. Overcome with grief, Manil weeps bitterly. Leaving Gabriella's home, Manil is suddenly attacked by a female zombie. He wrestles with her, eventually smashing her head repeatedly against a car window until she's finally dead. He then returns to his home, takes his cat, and sets off on a motorcycle towards the supposed safe area. Along the way, he encounters roadblocks and is forced to ride through the forest. Deep in the woods, he discovers a former military camp, the so-called safe zone the army had set up. But there are no survivors here, only masses of zombies. Everyone who was relocated to this camp has turned. Manil flees on his motorcycle, chased by a horde of undead, until he reaches the marina. He closes the gate behind him to slow them down. Looking around, he sees no boats, not even his own. But in the distance, he spots one a bit further out. He swims over, climbs aboard, and tries to start it, but the engine won't turn over. While searching the boat, Manil hears a noise. Investigating, he finds a zombie child hidden inside, which horrifies him. Manil keeps it together, grabs the lifeboat from inside, takes his cat, and sets off again, hoping to reach the rumored safe area. Upon reaching the hospital's entrance, Manil spots zombies roaming around. He takes a weapon and fights them off. Then, Manil and Victor enter the hospital. It's completely deserted except for the undead lurking inside. Manil leaves Victor in a secure spot and goes off to find medical supplies. While searching, Manil hears human voices behind a well-barricaded door. He calls out to them, asking if there's a doctor who can help Victor. Before anyone replies, a group of zombies show up, forcing Manil to run back to Victor's room. There, he finds a nurse named Lucia and a woman named Celsia, who appears to be a doctor, accompanied by 3 young girls. Celsia and Lucia have just finished operating on Victor, who is now resting. They sit down with Manil afterward, and he asks about the 3 girls. They explain that these kids belong to former staff members who turned into zombies. Celsia and Lucia took it upon themselves to protect the children. The next day, Manil goes to check the plane. It's still there, but the area around it is filled with zombies. He has no idea how to clear them out. Just then, his phone begins receiving messages again. Cell service is back. He sees video messages from Belen, realizing she had been sending them when he had no signal. He's delighted to see she's okay. As Manil watches the videos, he suddenly hears gunfire. Ashikov and his Ukrainian gang have found the hospital. Manil panics. If they find him, they might kill him or steal the plane. So he decides they have to leave right now. Manil rushes to Lucia, Celsia, Victor, and the kids, telling them they must evacuate immediately. They agree. Victor is feeling somewhat better, and they all start to leave. Suddenly, a zombie attacks Celsia. Manil pushes it away, and Lucia kills it with an axe. Unfortunately, Celsia has been bitten. She knows she'll turn and urges them to go without her. Heartbroken, they agree and hurry away. They reach a corridor leading to a back exit. The corridor is swarming with zombies. Manil watches them carefully and signals for everyone to pass quietly, one by one. Lucia and two of the girls slip by undetected, and Victor gets through as well. But when the last girl tries, the zombies notice her. Victor grabs the child and ducks into a small room to hide. Moments later, a group of Ashikov's men show up and kill the zombies, luckily missing Manil and the others hiding. As soon as they're gone, Manil retrieves the child and they escape the hospital. Now, only a short distance separates them from the plane. The problem: hundreds of zombies stand in their path. Manil comes up with a clever idea. They rig up some metal stands and frames, forming a makeshift barrier around themselves. Moving slowly under this metal shell, they push through the horde until they reach the plane. They climb aboard, and Victor, who's a pilot, starts trying to get the plane working. It takes him a while, and zombies begin approaching. Manil jumps out to fight them off. In the midst of the chaos, Ashikov and his men arrive and hold everyone at gunpoint, intending to take the plane for themselves. Thinking fast, Manil opens the hangar doors, letting a flood of zombies in. The zombies overwhelm Ashikov and his men, attacking and devouring them. With the gang dealt with, Manil continues to fend off the remaining zombies while Victor finally gets the plane airborne. Lucia throws a ladder down for Manil, and he climbs aboard just in time to escape. As they fly away, Manil receives a call from Belen. She's in a panic. Zombies have invaded her area, and they're about to attack her home. She begs Manil not to come. It's not safe. Devastated, Manil realizes he still can't reunite with his sister, and her fate is uncertain. This leaves him more distraught than ever, unsure where to go next, grieving and furious that after everything, he still can't save her. With that, as Manil and the others soar through the skies, the film ends. We have no idea what becomes of them, and it strongly hints that there might be a sequel. Of course, we don't know when that might be released, but rest assured that if it ever comes out, we'll be here to summarize it for you just like always. That's it. Goodbye.